After a project lead goes into a Confide project and adds users to the groups, those users now have access to Confide. You can choose when you're doing that whether or not you want to send that person an invitation email, and here's an example of that email. Anyone from within the tenant will be able to simply use their Microsoft 365 credentials to access the Confide interface. But in this case, I'm a user from outside that tenant. So how's this going to work? Well, I receive my invitation email, and I'm going to click Get Started. And you can see it takes us over to log into Confide. Now it's prompting me for email address and password, or to sign in with your account with Microsoft 365. As I mentioned a moment ago, if you're in that tenant, you click that link and use those credentials to gain access. But since I'm an external user, I would use my email address and a password. Please note, if this is the first time you're being invited to use Confide, you will be given in the original invite email a temporary password. Enter the email address and the temporary password, and it will prompt you to reset the password. In this case, this particular user, this is not the first time they've been invited in, so I have previously set the password, so I'll simply enter my credentials here. I then click Sign In. So you can see once I get logged in, here is the project I had previously been invited to, and here is the project that I have recently been invited to. And my email told me that Megan was the one that invited me, so I know she's the project lead. If I click onto that project, we can drill down into it. I can see the dashboard, which shows me anything that's new and any activity I've taken, which of course will be empty since this is the first time I'm logging in. And I can go over to Project Library, where I can see what types of permissions I have and if there's any content. For instance, under Research, you can see I don't have the ability to upload. Under Management Presentations, I also don't have the ability to upload, but I can see that there's a presentation in there that Adele uploaded. If I select that, you can see I can't actually click on it. I can highlight Adele though, Date Modified, and here's my View button. Also, I could potentially change its status. But first, before I do that, I'd probably want to actually take a look at it. Well, when I click onto this third folder, I can see I do have an upload button. And it appears that that same permission is trickling down through all the subfolders. And let's say I do have something to upload. Simple enough. Select the appropriate folder. Locate the file that I want to upload. Please wait while the files are being uploaded. And we can see that file appear as soon as it's done. Now, anyone else like Megan, or anyone else like Adele, or any other users in the project, the next time they log on the dashboard, they will see, hey look, there's a new file. Now let's go back to that file that Adele had previously opened. If I come back over here, again I can select it. As we said, we can change the status. But let's take a look at the actual file. So I come out here under Action and I click the eyeball icon, and it opens up a separate tab for me here in the browser. Now this is important to understand because you would think that if this content is stored within the Microsoft 365 tenant that Confide is using, that maybe it would open that directly. Maybe it would take me to the library in the SharePoint site where that's being warehoused. But you can see that it absolutely does not do that. I'm simply viewing it here in the browser through Confide. So as an external user, I have no access whatsoever. Now, when I say external user, let me also be very, very clear that internal users will have the same exact restrictions. It's all handled at the Confide level. So if there's other users in the same groups that the external user is in, doesn't matter whether you're internal or external, same exact restrictions. Those internal users can't go to the source either. They have no access to it, and they have no idea where it is. More importantly, they have no access to it directly. They have to go through Confide to be able to come in here and view this content. What else am I not able to do? I'm not able to download or delete, which tells me that I do not have any type of edit action. Now let's say though that I have gone and reviewed this, and I can say, all right, that looks good to me. Again, anyone else logging in will see that activity. They will see that this particular user has logged on and has been able to update that to this status. Lastly, we have this option up at the top right for new request. You have different types of requests, review requests. For instance, I uploaded that file, and maybe I would like to make sure that someone reviews the file. And then down below that, where is the file? And there it is. Who would I like to request to do that? Well, you can see we've got groups and we've got individuals. Now, do I even know who the individuals are? I may or I may not, but I've got a group here called reviewers, so I'm going to assume that. And the default is 1 week. I could, of course, change that to anything I like. That's fine for our purposes, though. And then we click Submit. Now, what would that look like to anyone else who could potentially log in? Well, it depends on whether or not they're part of that group. But let's take a look. If I go back in as Adele or as Megan, remember, they both essentially have project lead access. And I go back to the dashboard. We can see, here's my recent activity as Adele. I can see the new files, one I uploaded, one uploaded by someone else. And we can see where it's located. Now we can go to the project library if we need to look at anything else, but I can also go directly to tasks where we have submitted requests. So this is the request that was put in by that reviewer. Here's a little description. I can even add a comment, and then I can click accept to show that the task has been accepted. If I now go over to My Tasks, here's the thing. That is not a task of mine simply because I am not in the editors group, but in this case, serving as a member of the project in the lead capacity, I can accept that task. Megan could have done, of course, exactly the same thing. And as we said in other videos, who is doing this really depends. If Adele is simply serving as the business owner, Adele may not be in here on a day-to-day basis. She's assigned Megan to do that, or Adele could be the business owner with Meg as the project lead, and they could be tag teaming the administrative responsibilities for that project. How it works depends on your organization. Now, if I go back in again as Ron, and I go over to tasks, you can see Ron is actually in the editors group. So now we can see that it has been assigned to Ron in addition to that one other person. Now, Ron could have meant this as a point of discussion. Here's the file that we talked about, and other members of that group are now expected to review it and approve it or not. Mark it as completed, for instance. Change the status to reviewing. If I go back to the project library, and I go back to that file, remember the ability to change file status. You can also see in here, as the person who uploaded it, I have some additional permissions. So, considering what we covered in our groups and permissions how-to video, this user has been added to a group or multiple groups and received an invitation email. That invitation email gives them a link to log into the platform. If it's the first time, you get a temporary password, which you must reset. Once you're in, you will see all of the various projects that have been assigned to you. Clicking on an individual project will take you into that project. You can tell because the project's name appears over on the left-hand side, and you can see things like dashboard, project library, and tasks. You can even see now I'm getting some notifications on some things that have been changed while I've been logged in. I can see recent activity, things that were new to me when I first logged in that I had not worked with or seen before. And from there, I can jump right into the project library to review, to potentially edit, and to request tasks against. Tasks can also, of course, be assigned to me if I'm a member of certain groups. And I'll receive notifications around those tasks. Keep in mind once more that all of this is done in the Confide user interface. We are never out in an MS Team. We are never in a SharePoint Online Site collection or site or library. We are always working directly here within Confide. Thanks for watching this short video on how a project user gets logged in and some of the actions they can take depending on their permissions in AvePoint Confide.